there's a shift that has happened in the snapshot, high-level marketing automation world that I think it actually applies everywhere, is that AI-first documentation is the new standard. What I mean by that is, oftentimes when we're creating a product, a service, or an SOP, we're designing our documentation for a human. Because obviously, why are we documenting? Because we want humans to understand how our service works. Our humans understand how our product works, right? But this is actually the wrong approach. And the reason for that is pretty darn simple. Nobody reads documentation. And nobody reads the SOPs unless you put it right in front of them, force them to check it off, and punish them if they don't actually read it. And this is why things always get out of hand, because if documentation only works if every single part goes perfectly and everyone uses it and everyone updates it, then it doesn't actually work. So what I'm suggesting is that we need to have AI-first documentation. And why is that? Because people like getting answers. People like knowing the gaps in their knowledge, and people don't want to actually read the documentation. AI is good at giving answers when it has the right information, and AI can read all of the documentation that you can throw at it. If I take a giant document with 20, 30 pages of OPs and explaining what all the workflows do and all that, and I throw it into a knowledge base, it does okay. It doesn't do great. And the fact that it's not perfect means that people aren't going to use that AI, because your team, your clients are only going to use sources of knowledge, AIs, is if they feel that the time invested in looking up the information or asking the AI will actually get them a result. And the first time that they start running into an issue where the AI isn't giving them the answers, they're just going to figure it out themselves. They're going to say, I'm not going to spend the 5 minutes wrestling with the AI when I could just spend 3 minutes going in and looking things up myself. And so what I'm suggesting is we need to design documentation not as a hybrid for humans and for AI, but we need to have the AI as the primary vessel or the primary target of why we create documentation. And this changes a lot of things. We need to write our documentation understanding the problems that AI has. Because when we write docs for a human, like an SOP, what you're thinking of is, okay, what are the exact steps that they have to follow in order? Don't give them all the extra fluff. Just tell them exactly what needs to be said to get the job done, right? Whereas an AI that's dynamically generating the answers, this fails miserably. What happens if the answer to the question or to the person's question falls just outside of that step-by-step process? So what are the problems that AI struggles with? Well, one, it struggles with context. A lot of humans fill in the blanks of documentation with their own experience, their own, knowledge of the platform, their expertise. Whereas when we're creating documentation for an AI, we have to be very, very specific. We need to always be very verbose in some ways on what information we put down. We can't assume anything with an AI. You have to explain to them why this workflow exists. You have to explain to them exactly what this tag means and how it's used and where you put it, maybe even. Like some of those things that we might just take for granted. But what is cool is when you do that and you get that information, now the AI has a strong foundation to build the answers for you. But there's some other problems that we have to deal with as well with AI. The second problem is how documentation is designed. A lot of docs are big Notion or ClickUp docs or Google Docs. They're pages of text. The AI has to go through that whole 100 pages, figure out which is useful, maybe take some educated guesses, and hope that those pieces of information it pulls in from your documentation will be what it needs to answer the question. And that is very difficult. Sometimes it does work, but it's not very consistent because I need to be able to recreate AI documentation that works every time. And so a solution that I found in the high-level world is I use Airtable because I'm not recording the information in a human-friendly doc. I'm recording it in a relational database that has the context already embedded in all of the docs. So if I have a workflow, I can say, this is the workflow. This is why it's here. This is how to use the workflow. Here is what the workflow is connected to, the tags it's connected to. What system is it part of? Is it part of my lead gen? Is it part of my onboarding system? Just with all of that context, all of the context is baked into the relational database. And the AI is great at doing it. It doesn't need to look through 100 pages of documentation to figure this context out. One of the challenges with this approach of creating that context and creating documentation geared towards the AI is that this is a different way of working. Your team is not used to this. Nobody's used to this. My declaration that we are in an AI first documentation paradigm, world, something, fancy words, is that first time. So nobody is working this way. And the challenge is that you really have to go all in on the AI, and that makes people uncomfortable. If it's not perfect right out of the gate, people tend to just toss it aside and go back to doing the same thing they do every single day that they know works. The AI first documentation mindset is that we're going to live or die on our AI telling us the answers, right? When we do that, it's going to force us to adopt different practices. And one of those practices is AI validation. Once you've created your documentation, AI first documentation approach means you need to create your documentation and then you need to validate that AI understands things. You need to think about what you know about your snapshot, what you know about high level, and you need to quiz the AI and make sure that it knows what you know. The validation process is really simple. Ask the question, verify that the answer is complete, full, give it to somebody who might not know the snapshot as well, right? If you're a VA or you're a freelancer or an employee of an agent, give it to the agency owner. See if he can understand what was written. Give it to the new hire, your new junior. Make sure they understand what the AI is asking and can follow the instructions. If that works, then great. But if it doesn't work, you have a very easy way to look at where it's failing and ask the question, well, where did the AI get this wrong in the answer? What context was it missing that should have been there? Is it missing like onboarding steps? Does it need to know not just how do you onboard people to the snapshot, but does it also need to know how do people actually use it on a day-to-day basis? Because sometimes the AI fills that in. If it doesn't know how people use it, but it knows how to set it up, it might assume some things incorrectly because it doesn't know the reason why. The wins from this that I've seen in many, many of my clients actually saves companies, agencies, team members hundreds of hours of time. Because the upsides is you don't have to train your team anymore. If you're all in on AI and the AI doesn't work, you're going to be incentivized to fix it because you have to get things done. So let's take this through practically. So the foundations of AI documentation looks kind of like a spreadsheet, right? This is a documentation that first off, already off the bat, we're using a spreadsheet, right? We're not using a Google Doc, a text document. What we're doing is we have a list of every single asset, workflow, tag, custom field that's in our snapshots, our high-level accounts. And what we have is information about those things. Is it a workflow? Is it a tag? Is it a form? We have the system that asset is a part of. Is it part of foundations, or lead capture, appointments, sales, lead client area, onboarding? Then you need to have the information, the description of each one of those things. What do I need to know about this tag? Why does it exist? How does it work? And how do we set it up, right? This is basic kind of documentation, but instead of the overall process, the overall snapshot, this is documentation at an asset level connected with the context of the system it's in. Now, where does this go further? This is what AI looks like when you're at scale going all in. AI first documentation is really about the AI portion on the left here, right? That's actually what I'm going to use. And so in Airtable, I would just ask something like, how would I send a newsletter to a contact in the snapshot? Cool. So I'm going to go and ask it a question of what I want to know, and it's going to answer for me. So what the AI is doing here, as you can see, is looking through the workflows, the newsletters, emails. It's looking for nurture sequences. It's gathering all of the context. And because this is a very strict database where things are properly structured, the AI doesn't have as much of a chance to go off the rails. It's even going to be looking through sort of the updates section for any bugs or if there's any updates to the snapshot that need to be concerned about. It tells you which workflows it's part of. you can click and open on and gather more information if you want to dive into the details. It knows the custom field system. It knows the email preferences and unsubscribe system. It's gathering all of this. And it's even telling you how to do it and how it all works. And this is friggin' powerful because I can tell you, as somebody who's done a lot with AI and trying to get the AI to give me a straight answer from the docs, is it'll sometimes get it right. But if my documentation wasn't perfect, it would kind of get the wrong answer. It will just give me gibberish. But with a structured database like Airtable or AI first documentation, while it does take a little bit of work getting your head wrapped around it, the AI can figure a lot more things out. And you, as the creator of the documentation, it gives you a little bit more control over where to go to look to fix the AI. Because in a 100-page document, trying to find where that context was missing and making sure you add that context everywhere where it's appropriate, it doesn't work very well. Whereas with this, you'll know exactly where things break down, and you can just go update the context in the individual record and go forth. So guys, I just wanted to share with you a little bit about what I've been thinking about AI and documentation, and that whether you're using Airtable, whether you're using ones at Agency Unbound, does not matter. So the summary of all this, guys, is that whether you're using my Airtable tool, Agency Unbound, does not matter. The core concept here is that your documentation, SOP writing, anything on that sort needs to be AI written. You need to have your audience as the AI because that is where things are going. And AI is only going to get better. And if you're needing to get your documentation in order, especially in the high-level snapshot world, go to agencyunbound.com and we can join the membership, or I even have a new promo on a documentation service to get you guys started. And those links will all be in the description below.